let's just hop into it because it was one episode, but we got a lot
Sure.
to get into. I mean,
Yes.
Yes.
I want to start actually with not even what happened on the race, but afterwards, because I know that, you were part of a group that threw a big old brouhaha last night. And so, I mean, it must have been such an interesting thing getting to watch this dream play out through this bit of an edited experience, but reliving a lot of it in a sort of celebratory room about what was really, a pretty devastating moment, at least at the time. What was that experience like for you last night?
Well, I mean, for the two of us, this has been a lifelong dream for both of us. And so the nicest part about being able to do it in a giant group setting is we got to invite all of our friends and family that have been able to support us throughout the entire experience. For a lot of them, they've known it's been a lifelong dream for the two of us.
We've been talking about this since elementary school. So if you've known us through any stage of our life, whether it's been during high school or during college or your family, you've known that like this is something that we really love. So getting to invite them, even if it was for one day, really was something special. And we had friends come from DC, from where I went to college, and we had people come from Pittsburgh, where Maya went to college. So it was really sweet that they all came out to
Well,
celebrate us.
that's amazing. I mean, so you talk about this being a lifelong dream, which makes me feel old. But I'm intrigued. Was it okay? We're just waiting for the right time to apply. Had you applied several times before? What was sort of the events that led to you being cast specifically on season 36?
We pretty much filmed an audition tape as soon as I had turned it was my 19th birthday. We had submitted our first audition tape. And it was the first season that had open casting calls after the pandemic had hit. And that was the audition tape that got us onto the show. So it was pretty much our first go, which was really lucky for us.
Yeah.
But
We were waiting until Maya turned 18, and then we submitted the video right away, and we are like, okay, here we go.
Yeah, there you go. One and done. Unfortunately applicable in many ways to today. But I mean, I want to talk about that because what a premiere for you. And I'm so curious. I mean, we see there's like one moment when you're pulling up to the roadblock and you see Chris and Mary are leaving. Outside of that, did you see like any other team? I know the wrestling as well for like a brief portion of time. Did you feel like you truly were in it as much as you were able to for the rest of the leg after you had that navigational trouble?
I mean, we knew we were kind of in the back of the pack. Um, Once we had finally actually parked our car like on the actual street that it was supposed to be on after we had gotten out of that issue, for lack of better words, um, alleyway, I guess you could say. Once
Yeah.
we had gotten out of that, we saw Anthony and Bailey and
Amber and Vinny, they must have just finished the horse challenge. So we
Mhm.
saw both of them, and then we were running to the park, and we saw Juan and Shane run past us. And
then
then
we had gotten to the wrestling, and Mary and Chris, I
Chris,
believe, were still there.
yeah, they got it. Like, we had to watch one more wrestling show after them.
Mhm.
So we got it right after they did.
So when we got back to our cars, we knew that there were no more than 10 minutes in front of us. And so we knew that there was still some buffer time. Like if they had gotten lost, like there was still a chance.
And did that buffer time hold? Do you know if you ended up clocking in like 10 minutes after Amber and Vinny and Chris and Mary? Because we know that they also had their own navigational stuff on the way to the pit
They
stop.
they were walking off the mat when we were running up to the pit stop.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that stung a little bit, especially after doing the roadblock so quickly. I really like kind of put my head down and was like, let's get through this, and did it really quickly.
Yeah, so we gotta get into, the reason why maybe that short amount of time ended up being the difference, which is really the navigational difficulties
Yes.
Yeah.
right off the bat. I mean, I imagine where it partially came from was the fact that you two seemed super duper prepared and you talked about studying with a map. You didn't have one. How much of that did that throw a wrench into every plans you had?
A lot. And I'll say that we made a pretty fatal error actually right off the bat at the beginning of the day. And none of the teams capitalized on this, but we ran out, read the clue. We should have run back into the hotel and have gotten a map.
Mm.
So that was a pretty fatal error that we made. So we stopped for directions a couple of times. We stopped as soon as we exited the hotel at a restaurant we got directions and we knew the direction that we had to head in, but they weren't specific enough to get our bearings. So we had stopped on the way to the Malecon. There was a shopping center, and we had tried to stop there to get directions. But nobody was after that. Nobody really. I don't know if they understood what we were asking for, or from what it asked for in the clue specifically, they just didn't know what we were looking for. So it did take some wandering around to be able to find out where we were going.
Mm.
But I will say it benefited us all the way in the end. We had gone through enough times that when we had to go back from the rodeo, we didn't have to stop for directions at all. I didn't even have to ask him where we were going. I knew exactly what street we had to hit.
Exactly. You were basically like Caesar by the end of it, right? Like you knew Puerto Vallarta like the back of your hand because you went through every single street.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued though. Obviously, you didn't have like clocks or anything, but how much time do you estimate you were lost getting to the Voladores?
A couple, like an hour, at least an hour, like getting lost to go to the Voladores, and then getting stuck in the alley took more time.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we got to talk about that moment because, you know, is it just a thing of like, well, we got to do this 100-point turn instead of just backing up and
So,
just go ahead?
so the thing about backing up would have been, it was like a 4-lane road right behind us if we were to back up. So Rohan, and it was a busier road. So Rohan would have had to get out of the car and stop traffic across a couple of lanes. And
Which we saw Cesar do. I give him mad props
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
going out and being able to block the traffic like that. And also, it was a very long, narrow road. And when we were in the moment, like I thought we'd just be able to go down the road and turn around. I didn't realize that there was going to be a divider there. So my brain just went to turning around the car. Looking back, obviously, reversing the car would have been the best strategy. But when you're in the heat of the moment, it like really, you do things that you would never do on the daily.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, something you bring up at the mat that I think is so salient is like, even through these incredible stressful situations, and as it's becoming apparent to you, like, all right, this might be our dream coming to an end very quickly. Like, it was never something that was taken out on each other. I know, listen, not all sibling relationships are created equal, but like, was that something that surprised you, or did you always expect you to be so supportive of each other, even under these moments of duress?
That's a good question. I don't know. We bicker like sometimes, but it's like stupid bickering. Like we'll poke fun at each other and be like, "Oh my God, like what are you doing?" But I think what makes us such a dynamic team is really that we're able to understand each other and really, I don't know, sometimes uh like go with the flow and not fault each other. We're really in like pretty task driven people. So we know that we're both trying to achieve a task at the end of the day.
Hmm. So you, as mentioned, like had some brief times to liaise with other teams. Obviously, you didn't have a sort of like period to sit down and hang out with them. Were you getting a sort of like significant first impressions from any of the teams from either the starting line or just like the chance opportunities you had to meet with them?
Sure. Um, Danny is the ultimate super fan. Like we were at the starting line with him and I was like, that's pretty cool. That's something that we got to share. He really has been watching it for a long time and set up his own complex races, and we both thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I was about to say, you didn't feel any sort of threatened by super fan on super fan action here.
No, I mean, had we gotten further in the race, we would have loved to have actually worked with them.
Yeah.
Interesting.
They were also a family team. We're a family team, so we would have wanted to work with them. I'm trying to think who else. It feels like so long ago.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to remember.
Who else do we talk to? I mean, it's been a long time, so we've gotten to know the teams and we have special relationships with all of them. Ricky and Cesar are absolutely wonderful. They're from New York, we're from New Jersey, so we've gotten to spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah. And I mean, all of us, we still talk all the time. Everyone that we've gotten to meet through the cast, like absolutely wonderful people.
Yes.
Amazing. Well, last thing I want to ask is obviously, you know, you two have spent your literal lives together. But I'm intrigued, like when the rubber hit the road and you raced around Mexico together, what did you learn most about the other person through your time on The Amazing Race? We'll start with you, Maya.
What did I learn the most about you, Rohan? That's a great question. It's it's hard to answer because we truly have been attached at the hip for a very, very, very long time. I mean, it just kind of confirmed everything that I'd known about him. He's someone that I'm gonna always be able to depend on.
Mhm.
He's always gonna be completely driven. I mean, he completely killed the jumping through those lassos challenge. I learned that about you. I didn't think you had those hops. But just completely, he's completely someone that I can depend on. I have so much trust in him. I'm always gonna have faith in him, and I'm always gonna be able, like, I love him. He's my brother.
So Maya actually holds a really distinct record in that she's one of the, if you put everybody that's raced so far, she's the youngest racer to ever do it, which I think is
True.
really special. And like in the normal race seasons, like no one has done it younger than 19. So that's something she's always going to have going for her. And she really navigated out of the car turning the best that she could. Like I really would have banged the car up. She got the car out fully, which was really impressive at the end of the day. There was a crowd of 15 to 20 people watching us too.
Were they helping in any way, or were they just gawking
No,
at you?
they were fully laughing at us, but
Okay.
Oh my god.